Hi, my name is Jack, and everyone should have nuclear weapons. First things first, if you have nukes, no one will mess with you. When was the last time there was a mass-scale conventional invasion on absolutely any country that has nuclear weapons? When was it? The answer is never. If you have nuclear weapons, you can basically do whatever you want. Let's take Iraq, for example. They got invaded and completely effed by the West just because they might have had nuclear weapons. We know the story. If you already have them, you are allowed to dictate the rules and tell other people that they aren't allowed to have them. You can just enter their space, violate their borders, and demand whatever you want. Let's go from the deserts of Iraq to the tundra and talk about Russia. Because everyone is terrified of the nuclear war, it gives Russia the ability and the capacity, the space, and the strategic maneuverability to do whatever they want. Russia paranoids NATO from taking real action to actually give some concrete help to Ukraine because NATO is afraid of triggering Putin, as he was off and on dilly-dallying on whether to nuke or not to nuke. Perhaps to nuke, maybe on a Tuesday. In the end, isn't it able to do whatever you want to do, the whole point of the game? Doesn't it tell others you just have big balls? Does that even matter? I don't know, but the math is pretty straightforward here. The chance of aggression is equal to the probable chance of a successful offense or attack minus the potential max retaliation and the cost of that will incur. The cost of retaliation, if you really push it, from a nuclear power is essentially giving the person who attacked in the first place a kind and free experience of being able to play Fallout in real life. So, do you love to be independent and be able to mind your own business or even poke your nose into other people's businesses? Then nuclear weapons absolutely guarantee a great purchase. Let's look at North Korea. They didn't give up their nuclear weapons even once, and look where they are now. Despite the sanctions, it didn't stop North Korea from eventually building their own nuclear fleet, and they have been essentially allowed to be left alone and having their neighbors walk around eggshells. Since Russia joined the club of getting sanctioned to oblivion, North Koreans are now able to enjoy pizzas and have pet stores. Just don't talk about the cost of going against the great supreme leader Kim Jong-un. In fact, when North Korea sank a South Korean naval vessel and literally launched artillery shellings at a South Korean island, if the world did not have any nukes, the US and South Korea would have caused a massive conventional retaliation, killing hundreds of thousands, and it could escalate and escalate until we have a full-out war. But because North Korea has the bomb, the US and South Korea held back and chose to manage their escalation instead. The presence of nuclear capacity prevents a small border skirmish turning into a seriously larger war. Peace mechanic there, might I say. Now let's talk about the most popular country in the world, Israel. They allegedly do not have any nuclear weapons. However, their stockpile may not range from 90 to 200 nuclear warheads. So for the better or worse, all their Arab neighbors are left salty, having to think many times over before they do any sort of funny business, at least directly. Compare that to Gaddafi's Libya. Libya was out here being edgy on the world stage around his rule, but because they had absolutely nothing to deter anyone from attacking them seriously, they got completely screwed over. Gaddafi voluntarily gave up his nuclear equipment in 2003 because he trusted Western diplomatic assurances. By 2011, NATO swept in, overthrew the regime, and he got killed in the street. Ukraine, unfortunately, suffered a similar fate, or is going through the thick of it right now. They gave up the world's third largest nuclear stockpile in 1994 for a piece of paper called the Budapest Memorandum. Not treaty, not promise, just memorandum, aka I promise you, in theory. And look where they are right now, dealing with a special military operation of questionable success because the paper promise meant absolutely nothing without an enforcement mechanism. Or rather, some realistic, useful enforcement mechanism, because the West, much like its dating culture, has commitment issues. Another great reason for everyone to have nuclear weapons is that when two nuclear states face off, they don't actually go to an extreme war. They're just too afraid of blowing each other out. And the most volatile example is India and Pakistan. Without nukes, lots of people would die. Massive, massive conventional wars would have taken place. These two countries absolutely hate each other. And then things get techie when terrorism gets involved, where the 2008 Mumbai attacks and the recent Pahalgam attacks in 2025, these countries have all the reasons to wipe each other's existence off. And they have the means to do so. But because they have the bomb, they're a bit less hesitant to do something stupid like lose it all over an ego battle. Instead of blowing up the world, they're forced to have petty squabbles and to compete in other areas of strategic interests. It keeps the conflict small because the ultimate ceiling is nailed shut. That is why China, Russia, and America all like to compete in indirect ways to show off to the world who's the coolest and resort to espionage to hurt each other or support countries their rivals are attempting to violate. But what if, in theory, the dictator is crazy, you might say? Well, during the 1991 Gulf War, everyone in the West called Saddam Hussein an irrational madman. Yet despite having chemical and biological weapons ready to go, he never used them against the coalition forces or even on Israel. Why? Because he fully understood that doing so would trigger an escalatory response that meant his absolute destruction. Safe to assume he would have done the same if he had nukes. Or maybe he wouldn't have even considered it because nukes would have secured his anxiety. Either way, even madmen have a country to rule over. The most useless organization in the world, the United Nations, has a treaty called the Non-Proliferation Treaty, aka No Nukes Treaty. Under Article 4 of said treaty, the 5 permanent nuclear powers, the United States, Russia, China, UK, and France, legally agreed to disarm and get rid of their nukes in good faith. It has been over 50 years. Have they disarmed at all? Nope. They're actively spending billions on multi-decade modernization programs to build even more high-tech delivery platforms, just so that they have the leverage of, I can blow you out of existence. The Non-Proliferation Treaty isn't even a peace treaty. It's a nuclear cartel, or a nuclear cool kids club. It's designed specifically to keep emerging powers permanently defenseless, while the big guys maintain a monopoly on global hegemony. The system is so fake that countries that completely reject the Non-Proliferation Treaty just built the bomb anyway, like India, Pakistan, and Israel. We might as well throw North Korea in that group too. And look what's happened. They didn't get permanently ruined by anybody else. Everyone just pretends nothing happened. And what's the lesson? Don't get rigged, but join the riggers. The average Joe is terrified of a global nuclear holocaust. But look at how fast technology moves. If we stop being so dramatic, change our mindset, and actually focus on finding a solution, we can definitely figure out a way to easily decontaminate a radiated area. And if we do that, suddenly use nukes like every other conventional weapon, like a bullet or something. So, are nuclear weapons a good thing? If everyone has them, large-scale conventional battles become completely pointless. It forces a state to stop doing stupid things, and it makes the world a whole lot more interesting. And it's not like the world's already interesting enough as it is. So yeah, let's get more nuclear weapons. Some might say a lot of people die if a lot of people use nukes, but the game's the game. Have a good day.